me again on my cosmic commute. In the last video I talked to you about Mercury, what it represents, the symbolism of it, how you think, collect ideas, how you communicate, your perception of the world, how you learn. And I told you in that your personal Mercury and your horoscope never travels that far away from the sun. But today what I thought I would talk to you about is Mercury in particular signs. And you may not know what sign your Mercury's in. However, I have uploaded a video on YouTube that will give you like a step-by-step tutorial of how to pull up a chart and how to look and see what sign your Mercury's in. So I'm going to go through the different signs as they relate to elements. Each of the signs is a particular element, and there are 4 elements, 12 signs, which means that there are 4 elements per sign. No, 3 elements, sorry, thinking about modes. So for example, we have our fire signs. Our fire signs are Aries and Leo and Sagittarius. So when Mercury is in a fire sign, we expect that the way the person is going to think, or how Mercury will express itself, is very dynamic. It's instinctive. It's fast. It's curious. It's trying to understand the bigger picture of things. So for example, we would say Mercury in Aries, for example, you may see somebody that talks really fast and has so many ideas that they can't quite get them out. They're impatient. They interrupt. They're on to the next thought. They're so curious that it's difficult to keep their thoughts together, right? So that's Mercury in Aries. And we're going to see similar characteristics with Mercury in any of the fire signs. For example, Mercury in Sagittarius is going to be pretty philosophical, really witty, great sense of humor, sarcastic, some of my favorites, but also trying to kind of understand the meaning of things, and maybe even to some extent having an optimistic outlook on life. Mercury in Leo is a little bit different. It's still fire, but it's a little more collected. One of the things I noticed about Mercury and Leo is that they're really expressive. I'm holding the wheel, but they're really expressive, like with their hands. And so there's a dramatic flair to it. And their ideas are really powerful, the way that they want to bring them forward. They're a little bit more collected, per se, than, say, our other 2 fire signs. But still, the idea is to tell a story. They're great storytellers as well. So, as we move to another element, the next element that we'll talk about is water. Now, Mercury's not super comfortable in water signs because Mercury is in itself logical. It's trying to communicate and make sense out of things, and water signs are subjective by nature. They're feeling oriented. They embody the feelings or thoughts. So Mercury, let's say in Cancer, for example, or any water sign, they need to feel things. They need to really connect with ideas through a sense of evaluation. And they may have a tendency more to want to talk about things that are relational in nature. So you may hear Mercury in a water sign say, I kind of feel like. They'll tend to have a disclaimer with everything that they say instead of like, I think. It's more like, I feel. And another thing that I really notice about Mercury and water signs is that they communicate through metaphor. So it might be difficult for them to just be clear and direct, which we're going to see with our fire signs. Aries is pretty blunt, and Sagittarius is known to put their foot in their mouth. Leo's a little bit more concise, get to the point. But water signs, we may see them, they can sort of talk around things. And so they're great with metaphor. If they want to communicate something, they may do it through the form of giving you an image, something that you can feel. So again, it gives you a subjective feeling about things. And sometimes that's really nice, because when we talk about feeling nature, it's not always something that you can describe. It's something that you want to feel. And so Mercury and water signs are really good with that. Mercury and Pisces is kind of funny. They're a little bit dreamy and can be a little bit nebulous. In fact, they're really, really good at solving things puzzle-wise because they can see the big picture. They find the logic in in the pattern of things. So they're really good at seeing patterns. I think, for example, I'm not sure, I could double check this, but I think Albert Einstein, who was a Pisces, may have also had Mercury in Pisces. So the other thing I think is pretty funny about Mercury and Pisces, as they communicate, they're so impressionable that whoever they hang around, they tend to almost emulate them. And I know that I'm talking to somebody with Mercury and Pisces when I'm talking with them and they suddenly start to reflect the expressions that I'm making on my face. That, or they do this funny thing called a Neptune eye flutter. Well, they'll be talking and then they're like looking, I can't do it because I need to look at the road, but they look up to the left and it's almost like they're visualizing what they're saying. So they are incredibly creative, have a wonderful imagination, but are not always clear and concise. Might be better at writing or poetry, something again that really embodies the feeling or the thought, I should say. Next we have Mercury in the air signs, and Mercury in the air signs are very happy there because, as I said, Mercury by nature is pretty rational, and air signs are rational as well. Air signs are also really social, so we're going to see Mercury in the air signs being Libra and Gemini and Aquarius. So in the air signs, Mercury really wants to communicate and synthesize ideas, connect ideas. Mercury in an air sign likes to talk, just to talk, loves to kind of hear themselves talk, and not in like a selfish way, but they need that outlet. That's their sounding board. By talking things through, they make other connections in their own head. So Mercury in Gemini sometimes has the notorious reputation to just talk. I mean, they could talk for hours. You're gonna know a Mercury in Gemini when you go to a party and someone comes up to you and is like, so what do you do? Oh, so what's that like? Oh, so what'd your mom say? Oh, and how does your dad do that? Oh, okay. And then they just kind of bounce away. They're great at asking questions because they're so curious. Mercury, let's say, for example, in Libra, is also really good at being able to identify and assess things. They're known for being able to see both sides of an equation. It's not always great for making decisions, though, because they can be indecisive. There's a tendency to want to see 75 different sides. And trust me, I know I've got Mercury in Libra. But they're also very relational. So they're trying to make connections and find balance and mediate things as well. So they'll tend to take both sides of something, and they like to argue, not simply because they're argumentative, like say in Aries, but rather because in arguing, it allows them to see the other side or the other point of view as well. Mercury in Aquarius is rather profound, and in my opinion, one of the most intelligent expressions, because again, it's air, and they're so analytical, they're deep, they're the science-minded person. They want to understand things from all different angles, but at a very deep level, where our other air signs may have a tendency to get a little bit scattered and talk and be like, wait, what was I talking about again? Mercury in Aquarius is a little bit more structured. Okay, I'm almost to work. So lastly, Mercury in the earth signs. So our earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And Mercury's pretty happy in an earth sign as well, because earth signs are pretty rational in nature, logical in nature. Mercury in, let's say, Capricorn is really strategic. It's trying to find the best, most efficient way to express itself, to put forward ideas. It can also be pretty blunt and straightforward, but its whole aim is to be able to, in the most efficient and succinct way, explain and express and utilize the ideas. And that's the thing about earth signs, is that ideas are useful, they're practical. Where air signs just like to talk about things, and water signs can kind of get caught in things as well, earth signs really want to use what they're learning or what they know. Now, our next sign is Taurus, and Mercury in Taurus, it's a very stable, rational placement, and the expression of it is going to be one that is trying to kind of understand how things work. It's slow processing, it's methodical, it's thorough. It wants to really understand the inner workings, and it loves things that are already in systems. These are our biologists. This is not somebody that's very happy about talking about things for the sake of talking about them. They want to really understand, like, how does that apply to some formalized system. Similarly so, Mercury in Virgo is that way. It is incredibly analytical. It loves knowledge and information, but for the sake of practicality. It wants to be useful. Mercury in Virgo can also be a little bit curt, straight to the point. It doesn't, again, want to talk about ideas for the sake of ideas. It just wants to extract what is the most important thing in the conversation. And oftentimes then they file it away in their analytical little Rolodex, that's an old word, so that they can apply that information later on. So there you go. In a nutshell, on my commute, Mercury in all of the signs. Now, let me also say that we can't look at any one thing by itself. The horoscope is a holistic picture of everything. And so your Mercury in a particular sign is absolutely modified by the other planets' placements and signs, and your own sun sign for that matter. So for more on this, go ahead and check out my website. You'll see that I'm going to be offering classes pretty soon on this, and I will be back for my cosmic commute and on to Venus the next time I'm on my way to work. All right, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, leave me a comment, subscribe, let me know what you want to know, and if you have any trouble getting online to figure out what your Mercury is in, shoot me over an email and I will happily get to that as time permits. Okay, peace, safe driving, have fun.